I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. I'm still working on my English.
I'd like to buy a vowel, please, Vanna, then spin the wheel. Okay, I can't play that game. Okay, 100% just right here, right now. The game shows that go on. I do, you sit on the couch and you play.
Yeah.
I can't play Wheel of Fortune. I suck at it.
Really?
I can play the other ones. Oh, yeah, I do. I'm decent at Jeopardy. I do okay at, Weakest Link. I do okay at the chain. I'm okay there. I yell at the people playing Press Your Luck, about where the whammies are, but I don't know what it is. There's something in my brain. I can't play Wheel of Fortune. I'm so bad.
I can't talk. So there you go.
It's okay, we're
I
even
have
today.
to remind people I'm paid to talk, and then I can't even pronounce.
Pronunciate.
Pronunciate.
We can't pronunciate all the words.
Oh, goodness. Feel free to text in and tell me how much of a doofus I am at 720-819-5115. It's doofus. Doofus. 720-819-5115. Let's go back to the phone lines. Cap in Lakewood. We're talking whether or not the ICE protests are actually working. Are they changing anybody's minds out there? Is Donald Trump dealing with the impact of this, or is this just another protest? They protested pretty much everything else. Cap, good morning. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yes, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, hey, first of all, Bill, I played a lot of Boggle with my family when I was a kid. And that helps you with the Wheel of Fortune.
Okay, I did not play a lot of
Boggle is
Boggle.
the one where you turn it upside down and then you put it back right up with a little dice.
Yeah, and you got to do the letters. You got to form the letters. Got to form words.
Find
Yeah,
the words.
Oh, I'm so bad.
Find the words. That'll help you practice.
Okay,
It's
I
great.
will, my friend. Thank you. Making a note.
I got that too. I got a little bit of a brain tick, a little bit of I read things backwards sometimes. But hey, so I got a chance to talk to Stefan last Saturday, and I made a good point to him, and he agreed. What about all the other cities? Do you hear a lot of buzz going on and complaints about, you only hear about Minneapolis and maybe a couple others. I mean, even San Francisco, it's like you don't hear much out of that lately in the last month or two about ICE going into San Francisco. So it's the same playbook to me. They'll tell you what they want to tell you, and they won't tell you what they don't want to tell you. So that's how it's always been with the history of humankind and how I've studied history, prehistory, everything else. Let's see, what's the other thing? Yeah. Now the question is, coming into the country, call it sneaking in or doing it secretly, or that's illegal. Now, is that a felony or is that a misdemeanor?
It's a misdemeanor, and it is a criminal violation. But for decades, we have adjudicated it through the civil trial. So we haven't done it. Basically, we haven't brought people up on criminal charges very often, but it is a criminal law that you're breaking there. But we've been doing civil trials, in part because they're easier, but then
do you know
misdemeanors.
why we do civil trials? Do you know,
My
Cap?
guess is probably easier.
Yes,
No.
exactly. It's
Yeah,
easier.
it's
We
easier.
don't have to give you an attorney that way.
Yeah, it's just easier. My guess would be
go through
functionality.
the whole process.
I would guess that ultimately the reason why is because of money. Because the system
absolutely.
doesn't want to spend a lot of money, so it's like the IRS going after the guy that owes them $4,000 over a period of 30 years, and they're like, screw that, because it's going to cost them more money to get the $4,000 out of him. So he's a small fry. So,
In fact, Cap, that's why you do not see many of the multimillionaires or billionaires ever prosecuted by the IRS or the DOJ, is because they have done it's like an actuarial table of how many hours it's going to take them in order to bring them into court and everything else versus the amount of hours it will take to bring you, myself, Jeff, and listeners to the show in. And they have done the math and figured out by bringing in a whole bunch of us mid-sized or small fish, they can make more money than fighting the bigger fish because it takes up more time, more resources, and more effort, and you don't always win. So they've done the math. They're like, nope, we got to let the bigger fish go and focus on the middle and small
not
guys.
just this. This is a story I want to get into this hour. Denver's paid out $22 million for George Floyd protest injuries, and there could be more. How much are they just going, you know what, stroke the check? Because we don't want to deal with it in court.
Yeah. You're right. So that's a nice system they set up. You take care of the middle class and the little guy, and then leave the big guys. It's the same thing as going to war. before a country declares war on another or decides to attack, they have to assess everything. How many people they have? Is this going to work out? Is it the right situation? It's the same thing. It's legal warfare, they call lawfare. But I was going to say, I forgot to say one thing to Stefan before I got cut off last week to say to you guys. It's the old saying that if you treat someone, and in this case we're talking about politicians and leaders that try to tell everybody they got the answer, whatever, treat them like Greek gods. If you ignore them, quit paying attention to them in any form, whether worship or listening or anything, they'll eventually disappear. That's
there you go. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Cap.
That's fun. I like that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks,
Cap
Cap.
in Lakewood. All right, now it's time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. 37 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 55 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, police in Breckenridge looking for information after a man was found unresponsive on a bike path and then later died at a hospital Sunday morning. It happened behind City Market on the Blue River bike path. Anyone who may have been or seen suspicious activity asked to contact the police. It is Groundhog Day, and Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow, so that means the Midwest and East Coast will get pounded with winter for 6 more weeks. About 200,000 Core Electric and Excel customers lost power Sunday. You may have been one of them. They say it also impacted DIA and other systems, but all have fully recovered. House Speaker Mike Johnson believes the partial government shutdown will come to an end tomorrow. 47 is slamming the Grammy Awards as virtually unwatchable garbage. That's what he said. He blasted the Grammys, and host Trevor Noah, he said Noah was almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel and that he incorrectly accused him of visiting Epstein's Island. There was one good minute. Jelly Roll won a Grammy. Here's a portion.
There was a time in my life, y'all, that I was broken. That's why I wrote this album. I didn't think I had a chance, y'all. There was days that I thought the darkest things. I was a horrible human. There was a moment in my life that all I had was a Bible this big and a radio the same size and a 6x8 foot cell. And I believed that those two things could change my life. I believed that music had the power to change my life and God had the power to change my life. And I want to tell y'all right now, Jesus is for everybody. Jesus is not owned by one political party. Jesus is not owned by no music label. Jesus is Jesus, and anybody can have a relationship with him. I love you, Lord.
Amen. Millions of Epstein files were released Friday by the DOJ. The majority of it is disgusting. The rich, elite, ruling evil class who need Jesus all over the world in the photos, videos, and files. Should be a wild week on X, on social media, up and down, because the mainstream media probably won't cover it unless it deals with 47. Utah prosecutors and a broad group of media outlets pushing back against attempts by the Tyler Robinson defense team to shield court filings from public view, arguing there's no justification for secrecy. Agree. The more cameras, the better, and the more transparency, the better in Charlie's case. We'll see what happens in that, but they want it to be closed.
Yeah.
A teen has died from injuries received in a hit and run in Aurora. The 18-year-old pedestrian was hurt on January 20th near East Colfax and North Sable. Investigators say the unidentified teen was crossing against the light before he was hit by an SUV. The teen died from his injuries over the weekend. The driver was later found and arrested for leaving the scene of an accident. He could face additional charges following the teen's death. Amazon MGM's documentary on First Lady Melania is beating box office projections. Melania brought in just over $7 million in its opening weekend to come in third place. It had been expected to earn between $3 and $5 million. And it's official. Super Bowl week is underway, and the Patriots and Seahawks have arrived in California's Bay Area. Both teams are now set to take part in Super Bowl 60 opening night at the San Jose Convention Center. Nikola Jokic has returned to the Nuggets. Friday had a great game, scored 31, but only took 9 shots on Sunday, and the Nuggets lose 121-111 against OKC. Detroit is in town tonight to take on the Avalanche. 36 in Littleton, 38 in the Springs, and 37 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Billy. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 710 KNUS forecast is early Monday. A few passing clouds, temperatures in the low 30s as you start the day. Partly sunny this afternoon, highs near 60. Partly cloudy tonight, lows down to 30. Cooler for Tuesday with a chance for showers, highs in the upper 40s. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Headline from 9 News, Denver has paid out $22 million for George Floyd protest injuries, and there could be more. Nearly 6 years after the George Floyd protests, the city of Denver continues to pay out settlements. Billy, this is a rough one. I may actually agree with this settlement.
Uh-oh.
If you had to go through what this guy went through...
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
yeah, that
$325,000.
Yeah.
Would you accept $325,000 for what this guy was about to go through?
Oh, God. Here's the thing is, I don't think I would do, hey, here's the check, and we're going to do this to you with some sort of jackass stunt. I don't know. But in retrospect, yeah, probably. But oh, man.
A man who was recently awarded $325,000 settlement from the city of Denver is among the latest plaintiffs who've received payments tied to injuries sustained during the chaotic George Floyd protests in 2020. In December, City Council approved the payment to, should we say his name? Let's not say his name.
Yeah, skip his name just because.
Who candidly describes his injury, he says, was caused by a police officer who fired a 40-millimeter foam round into his groin area.
Ow.
The impact caused...
We could call him not Lance Armstrong. They're the same thing.
The impact caused a severely ruptured testicle and put Fink in the hospital. It's been really traumatic. The physical injury was the least of it, though I spent weeks unable to do absolutely anything but lay on my back in bed. According to an accounting of lawsuit payouts related to injury claims connected to the George Floyd protests, the Citizen Oversight Board estimates the city has so far paid out approximately $22 million. Another $14 million could be paid out, depending on how a case is ruled in a pending appeal. We cannot ignore the harm that was caused in those protests. I agree. Destroyed millions of dollars of property. Oh, no, that's not what they're talking about. They did ignore that. And they ignored people who were prosecuted. Here's the Denver Post. The district attorney's office and the Denver city attorney's office provided the Denver Post with a list of 389 cases that were originally set to be prosecuted, and a majority of those cases were dismissed. Yeah, so we're ignoring the property damage. We're ignoring the people that were causing that. Majority of the cases dismissed there, but $22 million and an additional $14 million to be paid out. I think it reflects serious errors in leadership, in judgment, in protocols, in processes. Richmond said, who's on the chair of the Citizen Oversight Board. Money does not bring your eye back, for example, if your eye has been shot out by the police. Fink said the incident put him into homelessness for a few years. But now the settlement is a symbolic event so he can move forward with his life. That was one of the victims. I know that now is the time I can actually start healing. The Denver Police Department declined to comment for this story. Yeah, they're not going to comment on that.
They also said that he was homeless for a while, which, I didn't see any details on that. But I'm like, and he said some of it was due to X, Y, or Z that came from this injury, which I don't know if it's he couldn't work or couldn't anything else. Again, didn't see the details on that. But yeah, just interesting.
Is this another example of progressives putting criminals first? I mean, they're paying them out. $22 million, $14 million still to come. And almost nobody was prosecuted. Very few people were prosecuted. A majority of the cases, the Denver Post said, around June 2020 were dropped. They ended up, 33 people were convicted at trial or through a plea deal. 15 people received deferred judgment. 11 cases were dismissed. One person was found not guilty at trial. So remember the Capitol. They broke out all the windows, and then it took forever for Jared Polis to fix it, so much so that you had Bill Owens and another previous governor, I forget his name, he was a Democrat, did a video like going, Jared fixed the Capitol. The thing spent like 6 months with boarded up windows. Then you had all this damage, millions of dollars, at least $5.5 million of combined property damage and police overtime costs for the George Floyd protests. But the city taking a stand to what? Stand up for the people that were shot by beanbags by the police. Is this just another example of Democrats putting criminals first or righteous justice? Bill, your thoughts?
Well, there are a couple of things. One, that, getting shot in the junk and taking that kind of injury, that does seem to be necessarily, excessive. And that is part of the problem inside of these protests is the methods and manners at which you use to disperse the crowd. And we have seen even some recent ones. I mean, there was an ICE protest recently where the agent pointed his gun in the face of a protester, fired a non-lethal round. The kid lost his left eye. That seems significant. Those are things that I would hope that most people listening to the Jeff and Bill show today would agree should be prosecuted. I do think that at times afterwards they drop charges on way too many people. Some of that, though, is obviously the politics inside of the DA's office. But the other one is the time and effort it will take in order to adjudicate the case, and if it is worth it given the likelihood of a conviction about X, Y, or Z, I think also is taken into place. And, the DA's office does that routinely on a number of different things. The one that popped up to me, though, inside of this is, oddly enough, and this is, I'm not sure that it's fair to bring the subject into the protest conversation here, is where's all the information about the paid protesters? Is because I hear that all the time, that these people that show up on the streets are paid. Well, I believe that if you are being paid and you're there, especially paid there to be an agitator or cause problems, that would be absolutely applicable to a criminal case. And if you're going to charge someone, the fact that they would be paid to be there to cause problems would absolutely talk about motivation and make it fairly easy to get a conviction.
But Denver's not going to prosecute that.
Well, no, yeah, they would, because it's an easy conviction. What?
You think Denver is going to go do research into the leftist organizations organizing protests?
Here's the thing.
They dismissed just about everybody else that was involved.
Well, again, I don't know we're going through the idea that these things were dismissed based on politics, not based on anything else. And the problem I have with that is I am not willing to then say that in other jurisdictions, in other DA's offices, they're making some of these decisions solely based on politics. I think there is a critique inside of Denver for that. However, if these are paid agitators, it's really easy then to look like the, air quotes, good guy or good girl to put the paid agitators that were here to cause a problem and make every other, and I'm using this description as if they will on the left, every other very peaceful, law-abiding protester look bad. Of course you would want to prosecute the bad apples. Of course you'd want to go after the bad apples in the group, especially if you can demonstrate they were paid to be there and agitate. And that's an easier conviction than, Jim that came down there and was upset about X, Y, or Z and got riled up by the crowd and then did stuff that they shouldn't have. The jury or the judge might go, well, it's technically illegal, but I see some. But if they were paid to be there, that's real easy to get to a conviction. That's real easy.
These are the shock troops from the left. They love this. And of course there's politics involved in prosecution. I got two words for you. Jack Phillips, little guy baking a cake quietly in a strip mall off of 285, gets drawn up on 5 years of U.S. Supreme Court charges. How many of these people were prosecuted that destroyed the city in 2020? Almost a handful. And we don't hear anything about them anymore. So, yes, it's 100% driven by politics when it comes to charging and prosecuting and all that stuff. And they see it as a benefit. Democrats see it as a benefit to have these guys out there. It helps turn people against Donald Trump. It helps, rile up. And they basically are essentially shock troops for the Democrats. Well, give us a call. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. 2983 saying, Jeff's a paid protester. He was a paid agitator for the Western Conservative Summit.
That is funny.
And then held a protest at the Capitol on abortion. True. I was paid to stand for the sanctity of life. I can't read what Jacqueline wrote.
I'm not quite there yet. I'm working my way through them.
Donald Trump is going to settle a lawsuit he filed against the Justice Department for billions. What's the difference? Jason in Denver texts in. All right. Lots of text messages. We'll try to get through all of this and more. Let's talk Gyrie's. Folks, my wife and I went to Gyrie's in Parker. They're all over the Denver metro area. Had an absolutely fantastic experience. We sat down with the professional designers who showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. I was a little overwhelmed at first. I've never worked with a professional designer, but she was a real pro and walked us through everything, helped us find the perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. We got these brand new blinds that were absolutely wonderful. I thank God for them every day. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Guy Reese has the solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. Here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come to you. So you can get the same expert advice right in your own home. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit GuyReese.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com. GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Guy Reese. You'll be sure to thank me. So, the city spending $22 million on George Floyd protest injuries for people that are injured by cops shooting at them. Is this a righteous justice payment? Or were they dumb people that never should have been out there anyways? There were riots taking place. The police were trying to stop damage from taking place. They got shot by non-lethal rounds. Look, sorry it happened to you, but you shouldn't have been there in the first place. And it's definitely not up to the taxpayers of Denver to cover a payment of $300,000, $22 million total, and another $14 million. Are these just radicals fleecing the taxpayers of Denver? Give us a call and join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us at 720-819-5115-2983 saying, Billy, we are paid agitators.
Yeah, in some ways, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. And I got to do it from inside in a nice little studio with a microphone. It is so much easier to do it this way. I'm just telling you.
Paid agitator. All right.
Weather is so much better, and they give us free coffee.
Yeah. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Free coffee. 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Good night. Lots of text messages here. Explain why Jeff, who is a paid Western conservative summit employee, is allowed to do what he did attending protests. Isn't that what is being railed against? He was a paid employee at a protest, thus a paid agitator, only to communists. But
good job.
This is why, you know, the pushback on, you know, some of the protests are organized. Well, yeah, so is the March for Life. Lots of protests are organized. That's not the problem. But 2983, we're not out there breaking things and interfering with law enforcement, which is where I think you get some crime associated with it.
For me, it's the idea of how we define paid protester, because absolutely that because many of us, when we think of paid protester, we think about someone that is deriving money in some form to go down to an event and cause a problem or make a lot of noise or do X. Where if we expand it to someone that sets up or may participate in something that is sponsored, then, you know, where does that paid go? And I think the core of it for me is that 9 times out of 10, when someone or one event is referred to as a bunch of paid protesters, it's used to completely and totally discount that event and those people. Because if they're all paid, then I don't have to listen to what they're saying. It's not genuine and it's not real. And what I would say is, for everybody that talks about, all these left-wing protests are paid, what if at the time, and there was a little bit of this, not a lot, but what if at the time the liberals or even liberal media was saying that, all these, during the COVID lockdowns, all these people complain about masks, they're just paid. They're just paid shills. These people that are showing up at these restaurants and people that are showing up at these events downtown and other places, they're all paid to do this. Do you see how it gives the liberals the ability to just completely and totally wave away anything that you are saying or doing once they label you as being paid? And I think that's the problem in this discussion, that, you know, as a core.
Well, I also think you need to keep in mind, too, that there is funding behind some of these activities. Not everybody that shows up, but the ICE interrupters, for instance, there is likely some funding that's flowing into those activities, but there's also funding behind the March for Life and that type of stuff. But one, I think, is contributing to our nation. I think the other one is direct interference with law enforcement and criminal. And so if you're funding criminal activities like directly interfering with ICE operations, then that falls into conspiracy.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. The thing so why don't we see, though, the idea of, because everyone assumes, both left and right, that there's your paid protesters. Why don't we see it more often? Because, you know, especially in these criminal prosecutions, if it is an individual that has been compensated monetarily to be there to accomplish some sort of violence, agitation, or to help get things loose, now you have criminal behavior. You have someone paid to go down there and to create a problem. You probably are violating some sort of criminal statutes, and wouldn't that make the case stronger? That's the thing, is I would think that in these cases of a lot of the violence, if those people involved were paid protesters, that's one of the strongest things you can bring into the court, is to sit here and say, this person wasn't down there based on genuine concern, based on genuine motivation, or even their morals or ethics. They're down there because it enhanced their pocket. And because of that, they did this. We don't pay people to do this. We don't pay people to go down and break out windows at the Capitol. That's ridiculous. This is a criminal offense that needs to be prosecuted. Yeah, I think you could get most jurors there if you can demonstrate that they did this not based on them being angry or upset. That's a harder hill to climb, but the fact that they were paid to do it.
Iggy, my favorite protesters are the Lawyers Guild.
That's funny. That's really good.
It is very much orchestrated. Let me help you with all this, because I spent 4 days with Palestinian protesters at the DNC. Okay, so you have The way Chicago PD did it was they put cops with bikes all along the outside. So they basically like funneled you into a particular area. They didn't just let you wander around and protest wherever you wanted in Chicago. You were part of a very organized, planned operation. And I saw this with my own eyes. Chicago PD directly coordinating with the Palestinian protester people. So there were a few times where things got out of hand. Like a guy with a Palestinian flag would like try to interrupt a train that was going by, or would get outside of this kind of funneled area. And a police guy that was plainclothed with a walkie-talkie and a badge on his hip. Okay, so kind of like a more senior level cop, not just a guy on the street running the beat, but like a senior level cop would go talk to somebody specifically that was an organizer of the protest and be like, look, your guys are getting out of hand. You need to rein them in. And then they would go and rein people in. And I've seen this at some of the other protests. Like the leftists will work to try to rein their own people in so that the cops don't have to be the ones that go out there. So there is that takes place. And then, so you had the cops with their little bikes and they created this like wall, which is kind of funny considering it's a Democrat protest.
Very smart.
And then you had the Lawyers Guild, and they always wear like bright green, I think. And it says attorney on their shirt. And they're basically there to help everybody understand their rights and record things and all that stuff. And then if you get popped by a cop, arrested, they're gonna be the ones that go bail you out of jail. So it's very much organized. It's very much structured. These types of protests are, although there are elements, and I got assaulted at one where there's like Antifa will have their own little protests outside of what the other libs are doing. It's a lot less organized. It's way more chaotic, and that's where you will typically end up with some violence taking place. So, text messages. How are the payouts different than what Ashley Babbitt got paid, or her family got paid? $5 million, 6782.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting because it would be in some ways the same thing. Yeah, that is real interesting. Also had someone, I think it was Iggy, throwing out who pays for all the printed signs. You know, if the protesters, are they paid? But the thing is that you and I have been to a lot of political rallies. They distribute signs at almost every single large, well-funded, well-organized political rally, whatever it is, whether it be on an issue or on a candidate, they distribute signs. Not all those people, surprisingly, show up with those signs. And, you know, the thing is, this is not that unusual either. I know that there are places in Europe where there are supporters groups for professional soccer teams that they'll gather beforehand, and in some groups there are the sign makers, and so they show up with 6 or 7 different signs for the supporters group to carry or wave during the match. That's kind of their job inside of the group. They're the arts and crafts people, and they do it. I'm not saying that's what happens in this case with the protesters, but I'm saying that I know of organizations that happen. I don't know if locally MLS groups do it, but I know in Europe there are some fan organizations in which that's exactly what they do. They have a couple of people that are in charge of making the signs, and then you show up and then you have the signs. Again, this is for sports, not for politics.
2983 said, I get it. Paid employee of a political organization is not a paid protester. A college kid taking loans out for school. It's not the same as Soros paid agitator, because an agitator is scary. And did we mention communism? Okay, I'm not quite sure I understand the end of that post, but there is a difference between somebody that's a paid agitator and somebody just showing up for a protest that's organized, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how does that fit into all of this? Well, join the conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Going back to the original headline here, Denver paid out $22 million for George Floyd protest injuries. All right, you Denver taxpayers. Is that a righteous payment? Is that settlement? Is that justice? There's another $14 million sitting out there. Here's a city that is out of money, by the way. Laid off 170 people. didn't fill 600 other jobs, cutting all these services. So you're looking at, roughly $36 million being paid out to George Floyd protesters. Or is this just liberal city council folks going, you know what? They're on our side. We don't like the cops to begin with. Let's just go ahead and pay them because, they're part of our team. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Looking to upgrade your kitchen, laundry room, or outdoor cooking area? Look no further than Mountain High Appliance, family owned and operated for 31 years. They have hundreds of appliances hooked up for you to have a true try before you buy experience. They offer professional delivery and installation. Shop confidently with the price match guarantee, ensuring you get the best deal and special financing options. When it's time for appliances, think Mountain High Appliance, your favorite appliance store. 3 locations in Denver or online at mountainhighappliance.com. That's mountainhighappliance.com. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Joan in Lakewood. Good morning, Joan. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. Did you have a nice weekend?
We did. Thank you. How about you?
I did. So there's this interesting story out of Minnesota. There's this woman named Nicole Cleland, Cleland, who was 56 years old, and she got up and she said, I'm going to help. I'm going to go follow the ICE people. So she found some ICE people to follow, and she followed them for a while. And then they kind of boxed her in and said, you have to stop following us, and you're interfering, and you need to stop. And she was like, I have the right to observe, and I can be here and stuff. And they said, okay. And they took her picture with facial recognition, and then they took a picture of the license plate, and they said, thank you very much. And she left. And then 3 days later, she got an email that said her TSA privileges, the ones where you go through, pre-check, and her other global entry fees had been denied. And so now she's filed with Minnesota to say that she's being unfairly targeted, and I think she forgot that flying like driving is a privilege.
I was going to say, is there a constitutional right to be able to utilize pre-check?
Nope.
What would be the reasoning behind taking her off the pre-check?
Well, if you're going to irritate us, why don't we irritate you?
Okay. So, Joan, do you think that's how we need to go forward in our politics? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So you will not be calling up to the Jeff and Bill show if someone that is a Democrat in charge does things just to annoy people on the other political party. You'd be perfectly fine with that.
Actually, I turn off the Jeff and Bill show when you bring on some of the Democrats.
That's again, I appreciate that, but that's not the question I asked. You will then support Democrats if they do the same thing. You will say it's a great idea.
I think Tulsi Gabbard's trying to raise her hand here.
Just saying. I'm just asking, Joan, if you're going to be consistent intellectually on this one. Are you going to call in and say, absolutely, if Democrats use the same sort of petty thing, then you'll absolutely support them? Oh, you won't. Okay. So it's okay.
No.
Okay. Good for the goose, not for the gander. I understand. One-sided. It's fair. Yeah. I appreciate you being honest about it.
Well, with Tulsi Gabbard, they did put her through additional screening. I think they tracked her. I think they followed her through all the different airports simply because they didn't like her politics. But go ahead,
I know.
Joan.
But Joan think that's a great idea. So, Joan, that's what we need to do going forward.
I think we need to just stop being so squishy.
All right, there you go.
Okay.
Joan Lakewood, stop being so squishy.
More revenge. She wants more revenge and take out things on your opponents. You don't like them. And the reason I pushed her on that was because it's the idea of because this individual, again, they say they were interfering with ICE. We have no information contained in any of the reporting that shows that she was interfering with any other operation other than them driving around. We don't see her stopping them from entering any place. We don't see her blowing a whistle. There's nothing there that's contained. Again, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but there's nothing in the reporting so far that shows that happened. We've seen this a number of times on videos where the ICE agents will walk up and take pictures of individuals and then take down their license plate and say, congratulations, you're now on a terrorist watch list. And that's where I was going with Joan, is that now just the mere act of filming law enforcement is not only interfering, but now places you on a terrorist watch list. Okay.
But no, she wasn't put on a terrorist watch list. No, she just had her.
Hang on a sec. That's not my statement. My statement was there are videos showing ICE agents stopping individuals, taking their pictures, like in this case, and taking pictures of their license plate, and then those agents on video telling the individuals, congratulations, you are now on a terrorist watch list. You're on a domestic terrorism watch list. And that seems to be what happens here, because if she's not on that domestic terrorism watch list, what's the reason to pull her off the TSA pre-check and everything else? That would be the reasoning behind it. I'm making an assumption here, but that would be the reasoning.
Yeah.
So I'm saying,
no, you are making an assumption because one, we don't know why. There's been no comments made back.
Yes.
Why her global entry pre-check was revoked.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, it's like, golly, there's going to be an entire chapter of the Darwin Awards after all these where just people are doing dumb things like driving around and interfering with lawful ICE operations and then being shocked that there's consequences to that. All right, join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. How about a simple New Year's resolution, even one that I could achieve? Reverse the clock on hair loss with Advanced Hair's simple one-day FUE treatment. You'll feel more confident, more youthful when you witness your own natural hair growing into those places that have been balding or thinning for years. From Advanced Hair's breakthrough technology to their highly experienced team, there's no one I trust more in hair restoration. Their simple FUE treatment begins to regrow your own natural hair the very next day, and your new hair is backed by the Advanced Hair Guarantee. Simply put, Advanced Hair's exceptional standard of care makes your comfort and your results their top priority. Celebrate this new year with a fuller head of hair and get a free consultation, $250 off, and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. Discover what meeting your resolution could look like with the before and after pictures at advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. Stop being so squishy. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Warmer than the high in Miami, Tampa, Orlando, or Jacksonville.
That's funny. Shout out to all your Florida friends.
Yeah, right.
Tell them that I'm going to reach out to two of mine myself later on today and, make fun of them because they make fun of me when it's all cold.
2983 texting in. I think this is an important area to discuss, saying that ICE is going to face prosecutions in 2029, guaranteed. Now, from my perspective, 2983, that just affirms my theory that Democrats are always criminals first. Right? You can cross the border, meh. You can commit violent crimes in America, meh. You can be let out on bond. You can be let out on, PR bonds. But if you are a political opponent of ours, whether you're ICE, Donald Trump, or Tina Peters, the full weight of the justice system is coming for you. Am I wrong?
And if you're friends of ours, pardons for everybody. We'll just throw them around. And I'm not just talking about the guys on that very special day in January. I'm talking about a whole bunch of others that have been convicted of fraud, stealing from charities, trafficking drugs into the U.S., trafficking drugs around the world, all sorts of things. But if you're well-connected and you're friends of another party, pardons for everybody. For everybody, all around.
I don't know if it's pardons for everybody, but
have you seen the list?
If you are going to allow illegal immigrants to stay here and to defend them and to actually go out and interfere with ICE operations, but then turn around and go, no, we're going to prosecute ICE agents, aren't you then by definition criminals first?
What? Walk me through that again. How? The fact that you want that.
So we allowed 10 million. We allowed 10 million illegal immigrants to come into this country. We set up sanctuary states and cities where we're going to actually prevent law enforcement from coordinating with ICE. Okay, and then when we get into power, who are we going to prosecute? The ICE agents. That's absolutely criminal first. You're putting all the illegal immigrants ahead of everybody else and prosecuting ICE.
Well, if the ICE agents broke the law, wouldn't you want them prosecuted?
Well, yeah, if they're breaking the law, I'd also like the illegal immigrants prosecuted. But you're watching the Democrats just totally ignore that. Oh, it's a civil man, no. It's a civil...
Well, it has been for years.
Civil thing.
It has been for years. And so if we want to change it, go right ahead.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Again, go right ahead.
Oh, they're always...
Well,
always criminals first.
Last time I checked, the GOP has the White House and both houses of Congress. What's holding you up? I don't know what's holding you up.
People in the streets throwing their bodies in front of cars.
Pass
All right,
the law.
We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Put on your mandate pants, pass the law. This is 710 KNUS. We'll be right back.